A protected witness in an Ohio suburb called 911 as someone broke into her home. Police arrived to blood, an open door, and her child whispering, "He came back." The man who destroyed her life was supposed to be locked away forever. Somehow, he wasn't, and a new video just started counting down. At 2:17 a.m. in a quiet suburb outside Cleveland, Ohio, a single 911 call shattered the stillness. A woman was screaming. By the time police reached the small White House on Willow Creek Drive, the front door was wide open, the porch light was flickering, and a trail of blood cut across the living room like someone had been dragged, slowly, violently, toward the back of the house. Inside, they found a child hiding in a closet. He whispered only 3 words. "He came back." The family had already buried their past. 5 years earlier, a brutal case had torn the neighborhood apart. An arrest, a trial, and a man everyone believed would never walk free again. The town rebuilt. The headlines faded. The fear learned how to sleep. Until tonight. Because the woman who made that call was supposed to be under federal protection. Her name was never meant to appear in public records again. And the person she testified against was officially listed as living 2,000 miles away. But something went wrong. Very wrong. The police report would later describe what happened next as unexplainable. The prosecutor would quietly call it a catastrophic failure. And the only witness left alive would stop speaking completely. If you want to know how a sealed case in America's justice system reopened itself with blood, fear, and a secret no courtroom was prepared for, dispatch logs later showed the call came from a prepaid phone registered to no one. At 2:17 a.m., Rachel Miller whispered her address through sobs, fighting to keep her voice low as if someone were standing right outside her bedroom door. She didn't say what was happening. She only begged the operator not to hang up. 5 years earlier, Rachel had testified in a federal courtroom against a violent man named Daniel Crow. After the verdict, she and her 8-year-old son, Noah, vanished into a new life in Ohio. New names, new records, new faces to their neighbors on Willow Creek Drive. Tonight, that safety collapsed. Rachel saw the shadow first. It slid across the hallway wall, slow and deliberate, stopping just outside Noah's bedroom. The floorboards creaked, one soft step at a time, like whoever was inside already knew the layout of the house. She locked herself in the master bedroom and grabbed the phone hidden inside a hollowed book. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Down the hall, a door opened. Then Noah screamed. Rachel ran. She never made it past the kitchen. When police arrived minutes later, the back door was swinging in the wind, blood smeared the cabinets, and Noah was found shaking inside a closet, whispering the same sentence over and over. "He wasn't supposed to find us." Detective Mark Holloway arrived before the crime scene tape was even fully stretched across the yard. He stood in the driveway, staring at the small white house like it was lying to him. Because on his tablet, under the victim's name, Rachel Miller, there was a quiet red flag. Protected witness. Federal case. Identity sealed. Holloway felt his stomach drop. Rachel wasn't supposed to exist. Inside, forensic lights washed the kitchen walls in cold blue. Blood streaked the lower cabinets and pooled near the back hallway, stopping just short of the laundry room door. There were no signs of forced entry. No broken locks. No shattered glass. Whoever came inside had been welcomed, or knew how to get in. Noah sat on the living room floor wrapped in a gray blanket, staring at nothing. A paramedic tried to coax him into drinking water. He wouldn't touch it. When Holloway knelt in front of the boy, Noah finally lifted his eyes. "You said he came back," Holloway whispered gently. Noah nodded once. "Who came back, buddy?" The boy swallowed. "The man from the bad room." Holloway froze. That phrase, the bad room, appeared in a sealed federal transcript from 5 years earlier. A transcript no local detective was supposed to have access to. and one name echoed through every line of it. Daniel Crowe. Detective Holloway didn't go home. He went straight back to his office and shut the door. The federal flag on Rachel Miller's name wasn't supposed to be visible to a city detective. That kind of access meant only one thing. Someone had unlocked the case. The sealed file loaded slowly, line by line, like it didn't want to be seen. 5 years ago, in a courtroom in western Pennsylvania, Rachel had testified against Daniel Crowe for kidnapping, prolonged confinement, and assault. The report described a soundproof storage room in an abandoned warehouse. The transcripts called it the bad room. Holloway leaned back in his chair when he saw the final page. Sentence: 28 years. No parole eligibility before 2048. Daniel Crowe was supposed to be buried inside a federal prison. Yet Noah had described the room perfectly. The hooks in the ceiling, the plastic walls, the red light over the door. Details that had never been released to the public. Holloway pulled the incarceration status. His screen blinked, then refreshed, then turned white. A single line appeared at the top of the file. Custody status: transferred, 11 days ago. Receiving facility: classified. Holloway's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered without thinking. A man's voice whispered, calm and close. "She broke the rules first, detective." The line went dead. Detective Holloway drove to the Federal Liaison Office before sunrise. He didn't call ahead. He didn't trust phones anymore. Inside the empty front lobby, a young clerk scanned Daniel Crowe's inmate number and frowned. "That record doesn't exist," she said quietly. Holloway leaned closer to the screen. "Try again." She did. Same result. No facility. No transport log. No digital trail. Only a hollow gap where a human being was supposed to be. A supervisor finally came down and pulled Holloway into a side office. The door closed. The blinds dropped. "You didn't get this from us," the woman said. She slid a single printed page across the desk. It wasn't a transfer order. It was a release authorization. Emergency jurisdiction. National security exemption. Judicial signature redacted. Holloway's pulse thudded in his ears. "Why would a violent kidnapper qualify for that?" he asked. The supervisor wouldn't meet his eyes. "Because sometimes," she whispered, "prison is safer than the work we need someone to do." Holloway drove straight back toward Willow Creek Drive. Halfway there, his radio crackled. A patrol unit had found something in the woods behind Rachel's house. A shallow drag trail. And at the end of it, a discarded prepaid phone. Still warm. The woods behind Willow Creek Drive were thin and shallow, just a strip of trees separating the neighborhood from an abandoned drainage field. Not a place you could disappear in. Not unless you already knew where to go. The drag marks ended beside a rusted storm grate half hidden by weeds. The metal cover had been shifted recently. Mud was smeared across the concrete, streaked with blood. Rachel had been pulled this way. Slowly. Holloway crouched beside the opening and shined his flashlight down. The beam caught a narrow maintenance tunnel running beneath the field, old city infrastructure, decommissioned years ago. It wasn't on any modern map, but it was on an internal diagram buried inside Rachel's federal file. A diagram that described escape routes, safe corridors, emergency extraction paths. Rachel had once been trained to use them. Holloway felt sick. This tunnel wasn't for criminals. It was for witnesses. A crime scene tech called him over. They had found something lodged in the weeds near the grate. A small, plastic keycard. The name printed across it made Holloway's breath stop. Crowe, D. Contract access. Contract. Not inmate. Not detainee. Employee level clearance. Before Holloway could speak, His phone buzzed again. The same unknown number. This time, a video file appeared on his screen. He opened it. Rachel filled the frame. Her face was swollen. One eye was nearly shut. And behind her, glowing faintly red in the darkness, was a familiar light above a door. The bedroom. She whispered through broken teeth. He knows where all of them are. The video cut to black. Detective Holloway locked himself in his car and replayed the video 3 times. Rachel wasn't just injured. She was terrified of something worse than what was being done to her. He knows where all of them are. Not where she was. Where they were. Holloway finally understood. Rachel hadn't been targeted because she testified. She had been taken because she remembered. The sealed file described her original role in the federal case as a civilian logistics witness. A harmless phrase that buried the truth. Rachel had helped map temporary relocation routes for multiple protected witnesses during the early collapse of the Crow investigation. Safe houses. Emergency shelters. Backup identities. Locations that had never been digitized. They lived in her head. Holloway called the Federal Liaison Office again. This time, someone answered immediately. "We just lost contact with a protected family in rural Indiana," the voice said. Holloway closed his eyes. "How long ago?" A pause. 20 minutes. Another notification flashed across his screen. A new video. Different room. Different woman. Same red light above a door. Rachel's voice played over it, weak, shaking, recorded. "I told him the first one." The camera turned. A little girl sat on the floor, staring straight into the lens. Behind her, taped to the wall, was a handwritten word. Detective Holloway finally said the word no one else would. "This isn't a rogue operation. It was a system." The deeper he dug into Crow's sudden release, the clearer the pattern became. Every authorization was routed through temporary task forces. Short-lived programs. Disposable offices. No permanent chain of command. No fingerprints. Crow hadn't escaped justice. He had been reassigned by it. A quiet message arrived on Holloway's private terminal. No sender, no routing history. Just a single attachment. Psychological profile. Daniel Crow. At the top of the file, one sentence was highlighted. Subject demonstrates exceptional compliance under controlled violence conditions. Below it, a note. Asset performs best when allowed personal leverage. Holloway's hands went cold. Personal leverage. Rachel. The child. The other witnesses. Crow wasn't being ordered to find them. He was being rewarded for how efficiently he broke them. Then Holloway noticed something else. There was no official handler listed. No supervisor. No controlling officer. Crow's oversight field contained only one word. Independent. Which meant no one was tracking him. And worse, no one could stop him. Holloway's phone vibrated again. A live feed opened without his permission. Crow's face finally filled the screen. "Calm. Clean. Smiling." "I told them you'd look eventually," he said softly. Behind him, Rachel knelt on the floor. Still alive. Barely. Crow leaned close to the camera. "You should hurry, detective." The red light above the door turned on. Holloway didn't call for backup. He knew better. The live feed had given him one accidental gift, 3 seconds of background noise before Crow spoke. A low mechanical hum. A rhythmic metallic knock. And, faintly, a train horn. Not subway. Freight. He pulled up decommissioned industrial zones within a 20-mile radius of Willow Creek Drive, places with private rail spurs, sealed utilities, and no current lease records. Only one matched all 3. An abandoned food processing plant on the edge of Lorain County. It wasn't on any emergency response map. It had been quietly removed 2 years earlier. Holloway parked 3 blocks away and walked. The building looked dead, windows blacked out, doors chained, weeds swallowing the loading docks. But one thing didn't belong. A thin red glow leaking through a rear service door. Inside, the air smelled like bleach and old metal. He followed the sound of the hum. A generator. Then he heard it. Rachel. Not screaming. Counting. 7, 8, 9. A man's voice interrupted her calmly. "You're skipping again." Holloway stepped closer to the open doorway. And froze. Because on the concrete floor, written in fresh white paint, were dozens of names. Families. Children. Cities. All across the United States. And only one name had been crossed out. Rachel Miller. Holloway's hand tightened around his weapon. The names on the floor weren't random. They were grouped. Clusters. Each set tied to a city. A county. A relocation corridor. Rachel hadn't just remembered where people were hidden. She remembered how to reach them without being seen. A soft click echoed behind him. Not a footstep. A lock. Holloway spun. The hallway door he had come through was now sealed by a heavy steel bar sliding into place from the wall. Crow's voice drifted from somewhere above him. "You always rush the ending, detective." Lights flickered on, one by one, revealing the room. It was bigger than the videos showed. 3 reinforced doors lined the far wall, each with a red light above it. 2 of those lights were already glowing. One was dark. Rachel knelt beside the unlit door, her hands zip-tied behind her back. Blood soaked into the knees of her jeans. Her lips moved when she saw Holloway. No sound came out. Crow stepped into view from an overhead catwalk. Relaxed. Unarmed. In control. "You're early," he said pleasantly. "They said you wouldn't come alone." Holloway raised his gun. "Let her go." Crow smiled. "I can't." He pointed down at the dark door. "That one's yours." The red light above it suddenly turned on. From behind the steel, a slow, deliberate knock answered. From the inside, Rachel began to shake. Crow leaned over the railing. "You finally get to see how the list starts." The knocking behind the steel door wasn't frantic. It was patient. 3 slow taps. Pause. 3 more. Holloway aimed his weapon at Crow's chest. "Open it," he said. Crow shook his head gently. "You already did." The generator stuttered. The lights flickered. And for half a second, every red lamp in the room went dark. In that brief blackout, the steel door in front of Rachel released with a dull hydraulic sigh. It slid open. Not outward. Inward. A narrow room waited behind it, bare concrete, a single chair, and a small camera fixed high in the corner. But the most terrifying thing wasn't what was inside. It was what was missing. No restraints. No blood. No struggle. This wasn't a holding room. It was a starting point. Rachel collapsed to the floor, sobbing. "He makes them choose," she whispered. Holloway turned back toward the catwalk. Crow was already moving. A flash of metal dropped from his hand and skidded across the floor. A phone. On its screen, a live video feed opened by itself. Noah. Holloway's breath vanished from his lungs. The boy sat in the back of a dark vehicle, seatbelt locked tight. A familiar red light glowed above him. Crow's voice came through the speaker, calm as ever. "You saved the wrong name, detective." Then the feed switched. A new location tag appeared. A new child. A new countdown. And on the floor beneath Holloway's feet, in fresh white paint, a new name began to drip into place. They never officially closed the case. There was no press conference. No public arrest. No explanation for why multiple protected families across the United States vanished within the same 48 hours. Detective Holloway was removed from duty 3 days later. His report was sealed. His footage was confiscated. And Daniel Crowe was never listed as a suspect. Not once. Because the truth was too dangerous to survive a courtroom. The truth was that the system built to protect the most fragile witnesses in America had quietly learned something darker, that fear was faster than paperwork, and one man was more efficient than an entire task force. Rachel survived. But she will never speak again. Noah was recovered 12 hours after the video feed ended. He doesn't remember the man's face. He only remembers the red light. Somewhere inside a forgotten warehouse, a concrete room still waits for its next name. Still clean. Still empty. Still ready. If you want me to continue this story into a deeper investigation, following the hidden task forces, the erased handlers, and the people who approved Crowe's freedom,